Bonjour everyone and bienvenue. Welcome to Farmers Corners FC, the French football podcast with the accent. Another quite busy podcast this week. We're going to focus on round 4 of the Ligue 1. 10 games, obviously, 29 goals, quite a busy weekend. There was a couple of games midweeks as well, and we are going to have our focus of the week on the Stade Rennais and the Lille OSC, two clubs that sort of look like they're about to become the best clubs behind PSG right now in France. Obviously, we'll finish our roundup with the MERCATO. Before we talk about that focus, three games, like I said, were played midweeks, and there were 3 games from match day number 1. Lyon and Paris games were rescheduled because of the Champions League, and the Marseille game rescheduled because of COVID. Lyon lost in Montpellier 2-1, 2 red cards during that game. Aouar and Hilton took 2 red cards, and Savanier scored 2 goals for Montpellier. Extraordinary game for Savanier. PSG won 1-0 against Metz. PSG, who finished the game with only 9 men. Diallo took a red card, and Bernat got injured when all subs were made by Thomas Tuchel. Poor Bernat injured with the ACL. PSG, who sort of got away with that one, Draxler scoring at the 94th minute. And the last midweek game was Marseille against Saint-Etienne. Marseille, who lost at home 2-0 against Saint-Etienne, the goals from Hamouma and Bouanza. That's all for the midweek recap. We're going to go on our focus of the week, but first, you know the drill. Music. Alright, let's talk about our focus of the week. After the first few games of this new Ligue 1 season, and also what happened in 2019-2020, we can sort of see a bit of a switch in which clubs are the most powerful in France, right? Paris is still almighty, and all that money they brought to the league with Qatar backing them up are about untouchable and favorite to win the Ligue 1 year in, year out. But 2 clubs slowly started to rise since 2016-2017. It's Stade Rennais, Rennes and Lille OSC, the club from the north of France. Those 2 clubs sort of look like they're about to take over from the Monaco and the Marseille and the Lyon, and are really establishing themselves as the next model of what French football can be. So we're gonna dive a little bit into both of those clubs, and we're going to start with Lille. So Lille is definitely been consistently one of the best teams in Ligue 1 in the past 4 or 5 years, and it really changed when Gérard Lopez, the Belgian entrepreneur, took over Lille in 2016. What Gérard Lopez did well is that straight away he brought in with him the over famous Luis Campos, who's that agent who has his own scouting company, who technically doesn't work for Lille, but he's contracted. He's a contractor for Lille. And he's been just a game changer for this team, really. If you look at a bit of the transfer that Lille has been doing over the years, you can see that their tactic seems to be basically finding young players and selling them. I don't like that word, but we talk about player tradings this year with Marseille changing their strategy, and Lille has been doing that for a while now. If you look at since 2016, what Lille has been doing, as soon as Lopez and Campos took over, they got heaps of young players on loan. So back then we didn't really know them, but in 2016, Gabriel Magalhaes, who now signed in Arsenal, arrived, and Cheka, who's still in Lille, Younous Sankharé that we heard of after that. Just some young players that were really good, and back then they were already selling their youngster. They had sold Sidibé to Monaco for 15 million euros and Sofiane Boulal to Southampton for 19 million euros. This team has just consistently made money year in, year out. A year after Lopez and Campos took over, they started recruiting I guess, spending a little bit more money in their recruitment to try and build a team. So that's the season where they had recruited Nicolas Pepe for 10 million euros, but we know how much money they made from that afterwards. Thiago Maia, Luis Araujo, they just spent 10 million euros on 4, 5, 6 players that were young players with a promising future, and it usually worked pretty well for them. That season they had sold Martin Terrier to Lyon for 11 million and De Préville to Bordeaux for 8 million, but then they sort of saw their politic slowly but surely working out. So when you look at the off-season just before 18-19, they bought Jonathan Ikone, who's now one of the best players in Lille. They bought him for 5 million off Paris Saint-Germain. They bought Selik, who's a very, very strong right back right now for them, for 2 million. They got Jonathan Bamba, Raphaël Leao, José Font. All those guys, they got them for free from Saint-Etienne, Sporting, and Yifang. They were really smart in their recruitment. I mean, obviously, Luis Campos is known for that, but in the meantime, they were selling player, finding ROI on some important player. That season, they had sold Malquit to Napoli for 12 million, Ballo Touré to Monaco for 11 million, Amadou to Seville for 15 million, Bissouma to Brighton for 17 million. They just keep making money. One of the big season for them was the next one. Obviously, they sold Nicolas Pepe last season to Arsenal for 80 million. They sold Leao to AC Milan for 23 million. They sold Thiago Mendes to Olympique Lyonnais for 22 million. And every time they sort of made money like this, they reinvested that money in younger players that they try and bought at the best price possible to then make an ROI. So they had bought, and he stayed only for 1 year, right? They bought Osimhen from Charleroi for 22 million, and now Osimhen went to Napoli for 75 million euros. They bought Renato Sanchez from Bayern Munich to 20 million. That's one of those investment, Renato Sanchez, that I think they didn't make to resell. They made so that they could grow their young players after that. They got a few players almost for free. Renildo, so Aguzul, that we might hear from a student of Bradaric, the young defender from Hajduk Split, they got from 6 million as well. And then it brings us to this off-season where they sold Victor Osimhen, like I was saying, for over 70 million to Napoli. They sold Gabriel, obviously, 26 million to Arsenal, and yet they kept recruiting smart. They got Liadji from free almost from Marseille, the 17-year-old striker. They got Yilmaz for free from Besiktas, Botman on loan, and I think there's a buying option of 8 million. Botman is a very strong centre back, and he's only 20 years old. Angel Gomez from Man U under 23, they got for free, and they loaned him out straight away. And the little money they spent on Jonathan David, the offensive midfielder / forward from Ghent, who just came for 32 million. But again, it's a player that I hope they're going to sell like they sold Osimhen next season. If you look at the LOSC squad, you can see how the team is built. Their most experienced player, there's probably one in each line, are a bit old but are surrounded by youngsters. So the goalkeeper is Mike Maignan, the goalkeeper who's in the starting lineup, 25-year-old. He's an international already. He's probably the number 3 goalkeeper in France behind Lloris and Mandanda. But Lloris and Mandanda are both over 30 years old. So he's definitely going to have his chance if he keeps it up, or if maybe he goes to a bigger club, right? In defense, José Fonte is that experienced player, 36 years old. But next to him is Sven Botman, who's only 20, Bradaric, who's only 20, Zelic on the right, who's only 23. That's what Lille is really good at. They're developing those young players through their academy or buying them young, which is what Luis Campos usually do with his scouting academy, which is called, I think, Scouting Limited, if I'm not mistaken, who works with him, and he gets them younger and he sells them in the midfield. The experience comes from Benjamin André, who's 30 years old, and maybe Cheka, who's 25. But around him, Boubacar Soumaré is 21, Renato Sanchez is 23, Jonathan David is 20, Jonathan Ikone is 22, and all those players are worth already between 20 and 40 million euros whenever Lille will want to sell them. If you go to their attack, you see Burak Yilmaz, who's 35 years old, and he was that experienced but around him again, it's Jonathan Bamba, 24, Luis Araujo, 24, Lihaji, who just came on, who's 18, and Timothy Weah, the former Ballon d'Or's son, and now Liberia president's son, who's 20 years old as well in that team. Lille did very well as well, finding the right coach for what they're trying to do. Christophe Galtier has been at Lille for now 3-4 years, and he's consistently got the best out of that team, creating a pretty passing football and attacking football more often than not. They got 4 offensive players in that starting 11, and they've been able to really secure themselves up there in the ladder, securing spots in the Champions League for the last couple of years. They missed out last season, probably because of COVID, but they got a spot in Europa League, and Europa League is maybe even better suited for a team like Lille, who's got real chance to go far in that competition. And I think Lille, if they keep what they're doing right now, if they keep Luis Campos in there for a while, if they keep developing those players, are going to be known as that team who can be the step to go to the Real Madrids and the Manchester United, etc. And by doing this, they're cementing themselves as the team young players want to go to, because if you sign for Lille, you sign for George Campos, and for Luis Campos, and Luis Campos will be able to find you a really good club behind. And this time, unfortunately, football is becoming a business, obviously. So agents are also really, really keen to put their player in Lille, because they're going to get the big commissions when they're sold again, right? It didn't work with every single player, obviously. A few players were bought or taken on loan and didn't really make it to the next level, but half of the players that Lille are recruiting are ending up in bigger clubs, and I think that's a real telling of what French Ligue 1 is. It's called the Farmers League by our English friends, but in France we call it the League of Talents, and I think it is that league who develops the talents, who prepares them almost like a reserve for the bigger clubs, right? Who prepares them to the next stage, give them a bit of taste of European football, not being in the best club, but being in the second best club, and they're slowly developing into those players that can then play for the bigger team. It's also one of the reasons why the French national team is so good. Ligue 1 is really good at developing those talents and at creating the strength that's needed for those players to get to the next level. The other team that we are talking about today is Rennes. So Stade Rennais, people sometimes don't know that, but Rennes is owned by one of the richest person in the world. His name is Pinot. So Pinot owns and is the CEO of a company called Kering. Kering, basically Kering. Kering basically is the company that owns Yves Saint Laurent, Gucci, Balenciaga, Alexander McQueen, all those expensive fashion brands. And Pinot, François-Henri Pinot, his real name, he's worth 33 billion US dollars, and he owns the club of Rennes. So they have a lot of money backing them up. You might know Pinot just because his wife is Salma Hayek, but yeah, he's a very famous French businessman who succeeded and who's putting a bit of money in Rennes. Obviously, he's making money as well with the club, but same thing. He's being really smart in finding the right people to come and work for him and the right president to put his club into the next level. So from 2017 to 2020, the president in Rennes was the former TD at Paris, Olivier Létang. And so, he brought all that experience, everything that he learned working with QSI and El Khalifi. He brought it in Rennes, and for 3 years he started building for the future. They find the perfect coach, Julien Stéphan, the son of Guy Stéphane, who's the famous assistant coach of Didier Deschamps. He followed Deschamps everywhere. Julien Stéphan has a real idea of where he wants his team to play, how he wants his team to play, where he wants his players to go. And so they really built on Julien Stéphan's relationship with the players, and Julien Stéphan, I guess, a little bit of that young genius kind of image, the young coach who's building a very fun team to see. This season, early on, Olivier Létang was let go, and the president that came to took over, his name is Nicolas Hovlek. Nicolas Hovlek has been the technical director of Monaco from 2014 to 2020. So we were talking about Luis Campos before. Hovlek has worked with Luis Campos and knows what it takes to build a team. Back then Monaco were buying James Rodriguez, Falcao, MBappé, and then sold them for considerable amounts. Hovlek has seen this, and under Pinot, he's building again that team. They've just recruited Florian Maurice, who used to be the head of scouting for Lyon. He's now the football director for Rennes, and same thing. He loves finding the younger player and looking at them from a point of view of, are they going to bring me more money, or are they going to bring something to the team that I need? If we look at the last few years of MERCATO for Rennes, Rennes are the clubs who sold 3-4 years ago now Joris Gnagnon to Sevilla for 13 million, but also last year Ismail Assar went to Watford for 30 million. They didn't sell as much as Lille has done, but they sold some very, very key players. They sold Ben Sebaini to Mönchengladbach for 8 million, and now Ben Sebaini is the captain over there. Thomas Kubek, who's a great goalkeeper, went to Augsburg for 8 million, and every time they sold that, they try and reinvest the money as smart as possible. They had bought the goalkeeper Edouard Mendy from Reims for 4 million, and now they're about to sell him to Chelsea for over 30 million. They try to get as many free players as possible so that they don't have to spend too much money on it. The only player that they spent money on it recently were Rafinha, who came from Sporting for 21 million, and Young, who came from Torino for 15 million. But year on, year out, you can see that if they spend 18 million, that's because they made 18.5 million. If they paid 54 million, it's because they've made 54.5 million. They're always trying to keep that balance the right way, I guess. This season is the first time they make it to the UEFA Champions League, and there's a few reasons for that. They really took a long time developing, but they developed the right way. They have one of the top academies in the world. They're often, their academy is often talked about in the top 20 academies in the world, the top 10 in Europe, and it's probably the best or the second best with Lyon in France. It's an academy that has seen a lot of young player coming out. We talk about Dembele, we talk about obviously right now Camavinga is talked about a lot. There was Sylvain Wiltord, Michael Sylvestre, Johan Gourcuff, Jimmy Briand, Moussa Sow. All those players came from Rennes, and Rennes just make sure that they train them well. They don't always try and sell them straight away. They try to build with them first. This season, obviously, Camavinga, who came up a season ago, has been the real entertainer of that team, and at 17 years old, he's already holding the midfield like he's the most experienced player in the team. And they've also got Sopi and Truffert this season coming up, who look like they are going to be real game changers for them. It's really, really interesting to see how Rennes is developing. If you look at the squad that Rennes has right now, it's a bit more experienced than what Lille is, and it's probably because of that first time playing the Champions League. They don't want to go into the Champions League, learn nothing, lose all their 6 games, right, and then go back to only playing Ligue 1. They really want to do something in there. So their goalkeeper was Edouard Mendy. There's real talk that he's about to sign with Chelsea, so they're probably going to have to find somebody to buy in his place. Their second goalkeeper is Romain Salin, who's 36 years old. But then if you look at same thing, each line has that mix of experience and youth. So in defense, the captain is Damien Da Silva. He's 32. He's just a tireless worker and a great example for his young players around him. Naïef Aguer, that they just bought from Dijon, is only 24. Mawassa, who's a left back with such a promising future, is only 22. On the other side, Amari Traoré is a bit more experienced, 28 years old, the right back, but behind him, Brandon Sopi, we've seen like little pieces of him this season already. He's 18, and Sacha Boey, who's also really good, is 20 years old. In the midfield, they got Steven Nzonzi, the French international who used to play for Roma and who's 31 years old. But next to him, obviously, the revelation of the year, Aouar for France, most likely will play at the Euro next season, and most likely will end up at Real Madrid. Apparently, Zidane took a fancy on him. Eduardo Camavinga, 17-year-old, the young French player of Angolan origin, origin, who's going to be sold probably for close to 100 million euros. It's that quality of that Rennes academy who's you really see in Eduardo Camavinga. The other player coming out of the academy, I was talking about Brandon Sopi. There's also Jorginho Rutter that we'll hear about, the striker. If you look at the strikers in that Rennes team, there's M'Bappé, who scored a fair few goals last season, who's 25 years old. They just recruited Serhou Guirassy from Angers. If you don't know Guirassy, you really have to watch a Rennes game. It's one of those strikers. The only players he reminds me of is Didier Drogba. If you look at Guirassy, if he gets a little bit stronger and if he develops his upper body, his game, like when his back is when he's turn his back to the goal, his game is fantastic. You always need two defenders to be on him at any point in time. He can score from anywhere around the box, and he's really good as that anchor point. It's going to be really hard, I think, for M'Bappé to get his starting lineup spot back, because Serhou Guirassy has really shown a lot of strength. Guirassy is 24, Nyang is 25, Hunu, the other striker, is 26. On the wings, Rafinha is 23. Del Castillo is 24, so same thing. You have a lot of youth around them. Martin Terrier that they just bought from Lyon is 23. Sorry, Martin Terrier. He's French. His name is Martin, not Martin. He's 23 as well, and a very promising future. What Rennes did very well, maybe compared to Lille, is Rennes has really two whole squads that can play in Ligue 1, and what that do for them is when they're going to play the Champions League, because they're going to start in a couple of weeks, they're going to be in the fourth hat, so for sure they're going to face two of the best teams in Europe, plus the third one if they're lucky, who's going to be only a midway team, I guess. They need those two full teams to be able to play. They want to play each competition. They want to play the French Cup, they want to play the Ligue 1, and they're right now on top of Ligue 1, and they want to play the Champions League to the fullest to try and get that experience, to try and for the president to get that value into those players and potentially being able to make money out of them, but also to try and really settle themselves fully into being the third or fourth best club in Ligue 1. As it stands right now, like I said, Rennes and Lille are about to get there. As it stands right now, when you look at Ligue 1, you obviously think about Paris, and the three clubs that are behind are historically would be Lyon, Marseille, and Monaco, with all their ambition and all the money that we've seen being poured out in Monaco. But Lille and Rennes are really those two teams that are showing models that people are going to be inspired by, and people are going to say, it's not because you're not in the biggest league in the world that you can't succeed. It's just about doing it right. Rennes' model is the academy, forming players and then making them play in your first squad or selling them for a fair amount of money. Lille's model is the trading with Luis Campos, but I think those two clubs we're really going to hear about this season in European football and in the next few seasons for sure. Okay, that's it for the focus. Now we're going to look at the 10 games that were going on this weekend. Quickly, I'll go through all the scores and then I'll come back and talk about each game one by one. The first game was Lille against Nimes. It's a French tradition almost. The first game of the weekend is a goalless draw where not much happens. So 0-0 for that game. Then Lens and Bordeaux 2-1 for Lens. Rennes beat Monaco 2-1. Paris Saint-Germain, the only away win of the weekend, won 3-0 in Nice. Montpellier 4-1 against Angers. Brest 3-2 against Lorient. Metz 2-1 against Reims. Strasbourg 1-0 against Dijon. Nantes 2-2 against Saint-Etienne. And Marseille to finish the weekend 1-1 against Lille. If we look at each game one by one now, we are going to start with Lyon against Nimes. We are starting to see the crack in that Lyon team, and it's a bit scary. People, I guess fans, are already sort of asking for Garcia's head. There are talks in the background that Juninho has asked the president Aulas if he can replace Garcia and find a new coach that I guess offers a better football game. Lyon against Nimes had 71 ball possession. Unfortunately, they could only shot 6 times and only one shot was on target, and that shot was a header from Kadawere that happened at the 90th minute. it's clearly not good enough for Lyon. It looks like Lyon is very, very dependent on Aouar, who was suspended this weekend after the red card that he took midweek against Montpellier. And I think, unfortunately for Lyon, they're probably about to sell Aouar. There's talk about maybe Arsenal trying to buy Aouar because Arteta really likes him, and Juventus was on it a little bit earlier. You can see that Lyon is not ready yet to lose Aouar and to play without Aouar. The midfield, when Aouar is not here, is Kakuta and Jean-Lucas and Cherki. Kakuta will be the next big thing in Lyon, for sure, but it's still a little bit young, and Cherki will be the next big things behind Kakuta, but Cherki is only 17 years old, and it's hard to give the keys to your team to a 17-year-old player. You can see when he's got the ball, he has the instinct, he has the technique, he has the vision. He's going to be one of those very, very good players, but he's still getting used to play against men. He's still getting used to what it means to play high level. That was his first game of the season in the starting lineup. Usually he's a sub that comes in, and I think he's a player that will benefit from staying a sub for a while and not starting straight away, and Lyon will benefit from that. The defense of Lyon was a little bit all over the place against Nimes. They could have conceded. Denayer and Marcelo are probably better when there's three centre backs. They were playing with a 4-4-2 this weekend, but yeah, the Lyon team just felt, I guess, without spirit. Not a lot of fight in that team. No one really working hard for each other. I mean, the perfect example is Memphis Depay. He was linked with Barcelona. He was linked with all those teams. But if they see him play, no way any of those teams will want to buy him. Of course, he can make the difference by himself, but he's really not working for the rest of the team. He's not defending, and I think you can see that big hole between the midfield and the forwards. Of course, Dembélé is playing up front as well, but it looks like right now he's got zero confidence, and he's going to have to rebuild that if he wants to be a game changer for Lyon. In front of Lyon was Nimes. Getting a draw back from the Groupama Stadium is a great result for Nimes. They had about 8 or 9 players that were down because of COVID and injuries, so it's even a better result. Nimes also is a team that you want to look at from a recruitment perspective. Their technical director, the head of football, so his name is Reda Hamash, and he used to be a scout, and he got some young, we call them pépites in France, young little golden nuggets that are going to be developing. If you look at one of the games from Nimes, Andres Kubas, the number 6, Nimes plays some sort of a 4-1-4-1, and Kubas is that one just in front of the defense behind the midfield. He had an extraordinary game against Lyon. He's a Paraguayan international who used to play in Argentina and who arrived this off-season. He recovered 11 balls during that game, and he was just everywhere. Not once could Cherki or Kakuta or Depay get the ball 25 meters away from the box and not see Kubas in front of him. He really helped building that strong, dense midfielder. The coach, Arpinon, who took over from Blacard this summer, is really keeping with that tactical strength, not leaving anybody coming through the middle of the park, and it's really working for Nimes. Another player who's been amazing for Nimes is Ripard. Ripard is a left wing. If you look at one of the games, you don't know if he's a left wing or a left back. He's just running back and forth, and his body build, it doesn't look like he's going to be fast because he's quite top heavy, very, very broad shoulders. Yet he's one of the fastest players on the pitch. He could have scored against Lyon, found the crossbar, and it really, really caused problem on the right side for Lyon. Really showed again the limits of Léo Dubois, the right back for Lyon, who's an international as well, but who's been criticized recently. 0-0 was the final score. Next week, Lyon will play in Lorient, and Nimes will host Lens for 2 games that both teams will fancy their chance at getting a result. Next game on is Lens, who was hosting Bordeaux. Lens, who's on some good results this early season. They lost 1 game to start with against Lorient, and then they are on 3 wins after that. They beat Paris a week ago, and that really gave them the opportunity to the boost, to keep going. They won against Bordeaux 2-1. The goals Ganago at the 47th minute and Kakuta at the 59th. Bordeaux reduced the score at the 90th minute by Kalu. Lens dominated the game, 60% possession, 19 shots, only 5 on target, but they really showed who they were against a Bordeaux team who was undefeated and who had not conceded any goal in their first 3 games. Lens really pushed early. Costil, the goalkeeper from Bordeaux, was able to preserve that nil draw by saving a couple of far shots from Sotoka and from Ganago early on. Kakuta really took the game over. Kakuta, I thought, was good in Amiens. He's at another level right now with Lens. He's almost, we talked about Kakuta very early on in his career when he was in Chelsea. It looked like he's getting that volume that we were all waiting for him to get with Lens, and he's really helping those players who don't have a lot of league experience around him getting through it. Ganago, of course, as well, has shown a lot of potential. Nice didn't really trust him to play. They sold him to Lens. Lens showing the trust, and he scored 3 goals in the first 4 games. Same for Kakuta. The goal that he scored today was his 3rd goal of the season. Lens is playing some pretty football. Frank Hayes, the coach, really likes attacking football. They're using Kakuta a lot since they got promoted. You would think that they're not going to play that game where they're trying to play the game themselves, but they are doing that, and when you've just been promoted from Ligue 2, you want to get as much point as possible early on, right? Well, they got 9 points in 4 games and now they're 4th on the ladder, which is a great start for a team who just comes from 2nd division. Ganago's tireless efforts up front, really helped the whole block coming up, and Ganago really creates opportunities for himself, which is what you want for a team that just came out again from 2nd tier. Bordeaux with their coach Jean-Louis Gasset, we've talked about the fact that Gasset can make miracle out of a short squad. Obviously, we can see that he's missing a striker. Up front, there's not a lot of talent, unfortunately, for Bordeaux. Wang Guizhou and De Préville, who are good players, aren't real strikers, and the only striker that I might have is Jimmy Briand, who's 35 years old. They've conceded 2 goals against Lens. They could have conceded more if it wasn't for Costil. That said, the 2 goals that they conceded are individual mistakes. One is a back pass that wasn't precise enough for their keeper, and Ganago stole the ball and scored. And the second goal was a penalty, and Bice a little bit carelessly fouling Ganago and taking a red card in the meantime, which made it really hard for Bordeaux to try and get back into the game. Next week, Bordeaux will be hosting Nice. Interesting to see those 2 teams who are struggling a little bit facing each other. And Lens will be playing in Nimes. Same thing. It's going to be a very good clash over there. Next game up is Rennes, one of our 2 focus teams, against Monaco. Rennes, who won 2-1 home against Monaco. Monaco would feel that they lost that game. Monaco scored first, Ben Yedder at the 20th minute, and Rennes answered in the last 10 minutes, Nzonzi at the 81st minute, and Truffert, the young player, at the 90th minute. The ball possession was 60% for Rennes, but it was a fairly even game. Rennes was able to shot 15 times at goal, but only 3 were on target, and they scored twice. And Monaco shot 14 times at goal, and 2 were on target, 1 goal. They've also hit the post a couple of times. Monaco really had the game in hand to start with. They had the first half quite under control, not necessarily dominating as far as keeping the ball, but preventing Rennes from creating anything. Ben Yedder, his goal came out of a bit of a mistake between Da Silva and Nzonzi, who weren't able to head a corner away, and Ben Yedder just smashed it in the back of the net. But after that, a few more opportunities for Ben Yedder to score, especially early in the second half. Beautiful through ball. Ben Yedder was by himself in the box and unfortunately hit the crossbar. Rennes slowly try and take over the game and really had to wait for the last 10 minutes. What Rennes did against Monaco is almost a domination a pointless domination. They had the ball, they just weren't able to bring the danger up front. Girassi, who I said was really good up front, did the work, but Monaco's defense, Disasi and Badiashile, are really strong, and they were really able to sort of prevent the Rennes attackant to go there. And Zonzi, who scored the first goal, really had to go above and beyond to score it. A bit of a he went over his position. He's a defensive midfielder, and he was at the end of a cross by Truffert to put a header in. I'd say that the 3 points in the end were maybe deserved for Rennes for everything that they showed, but we've seen that offensively, Stéphane still has to work a little bit. Mind you, they're still undefeated. They're still at the top of they are at the top of the table. 3 wins, 1 draw. So we can't complain that without playing the perfect game, you still end up winning, and you still end up at least not losing. One change, for Rennes, Camavinga, who's been so good to start with, wasn't great in that game, and that's, I think, a big difference for Rennes. When their playmaker is not exactly there, it's hard for them to actually create opportunities. And he was involved in 3 goals, in the first 3 games. And when he's not here, you can see that Rennes is missing something in the middle. The hero of the game was Adrien Truffert. He's an 18-year-old left back. He replaced Mawassa, who got injured during the game. And as soon as he came in, 1 assist for Nzonzi and 1 goal, a shot from outside of the box at the 90th minute to give the win to Rennes. That was his first few minutes in Ligue 1. It was a great start for the youngster. If we talk a little bit about Monaco, they had a good first half, like I said, but when the hour mark hit, they were really passive, and I think that's something that they're going to have to change. Obviously, Niko Kovac will have to work on that. What we saw from Monaco, though, is a really strong core. Like I said, Gizazi and Badiashile are 2 strong centre backs that are playing well together. In front of them, Cesc Fabregas is having a ball this year. He's finally getting back to his rhythm, and next to him, Chouameni, a young midfielder, has shown a lot of promises. Up front, the captain Ben Yedder, the new French international, is really showing all his talent. He's a former futsal player, and you can see it with every single touch that he is getting. He's a very interesting player to watch. He doesn't have Slimani next to him like last season to help him score more goals, but I'm sure that as soon as he works out his understanding with Kevin Volland, the new striker, they might cause a lot of problem. One downside for Monaco is the second goal was a mistake by the goalkeeper Lecomte. That shot was basically on him but slided under his belly. Lecomte was prone to a few mistakes last year, and it cost a few points to Monaco. They will want to change that this season if they don't want to have the same season that happened last year. Next weekend, Saint-Etienne, Rennes will be probably the game of the weekend. Rennes visiting the co-leader, Saint-Etienne. Both teams with 3 wins and 1 draw are on top of the ladder. And Monaco will be hosting Strasbourg in 2 games, a game between 2 teams who have had issues in the first 4 games of the season. Next game up is Nice against Paris Saint-Germain. What a turn for Paris Saint-Germain. 2 losses to start the season against Lens and against Marseille. A win at the 94th minute midweek against Metz, a win that could have been a loss or at least a draw. And now MBappé comes back. Verratti comes back from that little groin injury, and the team looks completely changed. Di Maria has been the best player in Paris so far, and he's been in every opportunity during this game. Against Marseille already, Di Maria was strong. Against Metz, he was probably the only player who was actually good. And again, against Nice, he's really shown a lot of difference. MBappé being back is also a big difference for Thomas Tuchel. He created the first 2 goals himself. The first goal is a penalty kick that he obtained, and the second goal was him going at goals, shooting, and then the ball was deflected to Di Maria, who scored that goal. The third goal by Marquinhos was a corner by Di Maria. The goals were at the 30th and 46th minute in the first half, and the 66th minute in the second half. The the ball possession was 50-50, and both teams had the same amount of shot, 14 and 5 and 6 of them were on target. So there was maybe not a lot of difference, except maybe that MBappé, Di Maria, and Marquinhos, when they have opportunities, they put it in the back of the net. 5 shots on target, 3 goals, and one of them was deflected for the second goal. Whether Nice 6 shots on target and not able to score once. Mind you, Keylor Navas again had a fantastic game for Paris, and it doesn't help Nice when you have such a strong goalkeeper in front of you. Dolberg was not playing for Nice. He had COVID, so Gouiri, the young player they just bought from Lyon, who usually is a left winger, played up front, and you can see that Vieira's team had a hard time finding Gouiri up front, finding the opportunities behind the Paris defense. Very interesting to see for Paris is that it looks like they play better without their star player, without Neymar Jr., which is going to be a question that Thomas Tuchel is going to have to ask himself. When Neymar plays, 90% of the ball, when they come from the defense, they go to Neymar. Neymar is the guy who gets the ball and organizes it. And we've seen Neymar now against Bayern Munich and against Marseille. When he gets frustrated, he's trying to dribble the whole squad and the referee and the coach and everyone, and he's really slowing the game. And now that Neymar wasn't here, you could see the ball going to Di Maria, to Mbappé, to Verratti, to Paredes. Just a lot of not Paredes, Sarabia. Just a lot of movement throughout the pitch. When Neymar is here, the team heavily leans on the left side where Neymar plays. It's going to be interesting to see this season how that pans out. Mbappé had a hard time finding Icardi. That's the only probably minor for Paris. Mind you, Icardi find a way to hit the crossbar anyway. But yeah, he's having a hard time really fitting into that team. Couple of things that we're going to have to follow for Paris this season. As far as Nice goes, questions. They spend a lot of money. Ineos is backing them and wants this team to be successful. Vieira maybe not getting the most out of his squad. We're going to have to see how they get without Walter Benitez in goal. This game could have been 5 or 6 zeros. So it's important that this turns it up as early as possible if Vieira wants to be able to keep his job. Next weekend, Nice is traveling to Bordeaux and PSG is traveling to Reims. The 2 games that those two teams will fancy winning. Next game up is Montpellier against Angers, and the largest win of the weekend, 4-1 for Montpellier. The goals were Souquet at the 18th minute, Delors with a brace 43rd minute and 60th minute, and Mollet to finish with the 86th minutes. Notably Laborde with 3 assists in the game. When he doesn't score, he assists, and that's great to see from the striker. The goal from Angers came from Bahoken, his second goal after scoring last week as well. A very even game on paper. Two teams that had a good start of the season without being great, and two teams that when they play against each other ended up having 50-50 possession and 40 shots each. The difference maybe being that Montpellier put on target 9 of those 14 shots, and Angers was only able to do that for 3 shots. Montpellier is very strong at home. They started the season away and they lost, and then they played 3 games at home, the luck of the draw, I guess, and they won those 3 games. So it's a home advantage that they're happy to keep despite having only 5,000 spectators in their stadium. The game was dominated by Montpellier, at least as far as territory goes. They played most of the game in Angers' half. They were a little bit quicker on the ball, and they were definitely more clinical. Angers, mind you, just sold their playmaker, Santa Maria, who's their deep-lying playmaker, I'd say, plays that number 6 role and was a real asset for Angers. He's been sold to Freiburg this weekend, so they probably had to adjust. Didn't prevent them from getting a lot of balls back. They're really good at recovering the goal in that midfield, but unfortunately couldn't do much with the goals from Souquet and Delors and the last one for Mollet. What's interesting from Montpellier as well is that they used it with quite quite well. They're playing a 3-5-2 and they play a lot of ball in the wings, but they play against a team who like to use the wing as well. So you could see both teams trying to lean on the side that works the best, and it turned out to be, I think, half of the opportunities from Montpellier came from the right side, and half of the opportunities from Angers came from the other side, from their own right side. So it was interesting to see how that game panned out. What is important to remember, I think, for Montpellier is Savanier, Laborde, Delorde up front. There's a great alchemy, great ESP between those three players. They're able to find each other almost with closed eyes. Laborde has scored in the first 2 games, and now he gave the goals to Delorde. It's going to be really, really strong for this team that supposedly is destined to the middle of the ladder, who now has 9 points in 4 games. It's going to be interesting to see where they get. The next games, Montpellier is playing in Dijon, and Angers will be hosting Brest. Brest, who was hosting Lorient this weekend and won 3-2. Good result for Brest. The goal for Brest from Perrault, Mounier, and Honora, and Lorient scored thanks to an own goal from Herel and a goal from Monconduit all the way at the end at the 90th minute. A bit of a crazy 5 minutes in the first half between the 30th and the 35th. 3 goals, Perrault and Mounier scoring one after the other, and then the own goal from Herel coming 2 minutes after that, which means that the halftime was 2-1. It was the first derby of Brittany this season. There's going to be quite a few derby between Brest, Lorient, Nantes, Rennes. There's a few teams in the northwest of France this season. The game was quite the open game and quite box to box, and the score obviously says that well. 57 possession for Brest, 10 shots 6 on target for Brest, and 10 shots 4 on target for Lorient. Both teams able to convert half of their chances into the back of the net. It was the first goal for Mounier, who's just got bought from Huddersfield. It was the first goal for Honora as well under his new Brest color, the forward who comes from Saint-Etienne. It was the first goal for Monconduit for Lorient as well. It was the game of first goal. Lorient could definitely have equalized in the first half after those crazy 5 minutes, but Larsonneur, the goalkeeper from Brest, I spoke about him being one of the great future French goalkeeper. Larsonneur was on his A game for most of the game. I think he stopped at the 89th minute instead of the 94th. Brest, having their second win in a row, is showing again some really good attacking football. It's good to see again for a team that is not supposed to be playing the top role in Ligue 1, and they have that will to keep pushing all game despite what the score might be. Lorient, who just is coming from the second tier, is having a bit of a hard time building plays. They did get opportunities, they just needed to be a bit more clinical. I said the Larsonneur, the goalkeeper from Brest, was good up until the 89th minute. It's because the goal from Monconduit came from Larsonneur not passing the ball properly, and then the ball being intercepted, and Lorient able to score and put pressure on Brest on the last couple of minutes. 2 teams to follow. Lorient is going to fight for the relegation. Brest look like they're going to be able to finish probably between the 11th and the 8th spot, which is something good for the team that's definitely in building modes. The next game, Brest is playing in Angers, and Lorient will be hosting Lyon. 2 games that are not going to be easy for those 2 teams. Next up is Metz against Reims. Metz wins that game 2-1. The goals by Nian at the 18th and 88th minute. Reims scoring in between at the 48th minute by Dia on penalty. Metz before the game was the only team with 0 point and 0 goal scored, which was something that they were trying to break as early as possible, and doing it at home is the best way. Reims, who looked a bit tired, was playing midweek in the second preliminary round of the Europa League. They play against the Servette de Genève, the Swiss club, and they won 1-0. It's probably why they were a little bit tired when they came in. The Onion squad, Reims, Onion is the name of the coach. Reims started the game well, really sort of taking over a couple of opportunities early on, almost able to score, but Ukija, the goalkeeper from Metz, we talked about him when he played against Paris midweek. He's a great goalkeeper and he was able to stop any opportunity. Metz only needed one chance to score, and it was Nian at the 18th minute. On a set piece as well. It's the first goal of the season for Metz, which is great, and the first goal of the season for Nian as well, obviously. Metz, who actually ended up having 60% of the possession, but that happened after halftime mostly, because at the 52nd minute, and after Reims had equalized before halftime, they equalized just before halftime on penalty. At the 52nd minute, early in the second half, Munetsi irregularly stopped Nian, who was going to face the Reims keeper 1v1. Red card for Munetsi, and from there on, Reims was really passive and just defended and tried to keep that draw. Metz pushed and pushed, and at the end got their reward at the 88th minute, where Nian got his second goal of the day. Great result for Metz, who finally gets 3 points and finally gets goals in. Doing it at home is going to give them the confidence they need to slowly go up. Reims won't be happy with not winning, but when you're down to 10 men for about 40 minutes, it's hard to keep a result like this. The next games are not going to be easy for both teams. Metz is traveling to Marseille to face OM, and Reims will be hosting an informed PSG. A couple of games left to discuss. Nantes and Saint-Etienne were playing at La Beaujoire. 2-2 final score. ISSE Saint-Etienne scored first, Aouar at the second minute and Masson at the 66th minute, and Nantes respond late in the game, Simon at the 71st minute and Aimon at the 85th minute. Saint-Etienne, who had 3 wins and 0 goal conceded before that game, in Nantes, who fancied getting a 4th win in a row and had the chance to do it. Aouar has been absolutely amazing during that game. Aouar was that young player who came from the Paris Academy, and Saint-Etienne bought during the offseason that made a little bit of noise, saying that Paris can't keep their best player. Aouar scored his first goal after just 2 minutes, and sort of despite Nantes dominating the first half, Saint-Etienne was able to just keep the score up and keep that 1-0 that Aouar gave them quite early. Nantes will be a little bit upset at the referees. 2 calls during that first half that were a little bit controversial. A penalty that could have been given to Ludovic Bias, but the VR wasn't checked, and then a goal that was denied for an offside. This time the VR was checked. The offside was very, very slight, but I mean, the teams went back to the locker room with a 1-0 win for Saint-Etienne. During the second half, Nantes kept pushing, but Saint-Etienne on counter-attack was able to score. Masson scored his first goal in Ligue 1, a beautiful goal. He's a right-footed player who plays on the left side, just cut back in the middle and then shot from outside the box, found the top corner, opposite top corner. Great goal by Saint-Etienne, and at this point, it's the 66 minutes. You think that Saint-Etienne will be able to keep that score and to get that 4th win in a row. Unfortunately, they're starting to be a little bit less serious in their back line, to defend it a little bit less well, and both the Nantes goal at the 71st and 85th minute show that Saint-Etienne did not defend well, and they could even almost concede a 3rd goal in the very last minute. Saint-Etienne is a very interesting team this season, top of the league, like I said, with 10 points now, 3 victories and one draw. Puel is doing a good job in Saint-Etienne right now. It's going to be about, can you keep doing it for the whole season? The 2 games next weekend, Nantes is going to Lille. Very complicated game for Nantes. We'll see what they can do against Christophe Galtier's squad. And Saint-Etienne and Rennes, the top of the ladder teams facing each other. It's going to be one of the game of the weekend for sure. Last game of the weekend was Marseille against Lille. 1-1 draw, and a very, very lucky result for Marseille. You could have lost that game, and it was not going to be an upset if they had lost that game. Araujo scoring for Lille at the 47th minute, and Germain scoring for Marseille at the 85th minute. Marseille paradoxically had the ball. 57% of the possession was for Marseille, but just weren't able to show to bring any danger in Mike Maignan box. 11 shots for Marseille, only 2 on target, 14 shots for Lille, and 7 on target. Marseille, who has a very demanding public, it's going to be very demanding audience, very demanding supporters. It's going to be hard to keep up with those the way they're playing at home. Interestingly enough, Marseille getting 7 points out of their first 4 games. Their first 4 games being Brest, Paris, Lille, and Saint-Etienne is a good result for the beginning of the season. But the way they played, winning twice away and losing and conceding the draw at home, is not something that the Marseille supporters will accept easily. The game, like I said, was dominated by Lille. Quite a few shots. Mandanda again being the best player on the field for Marseille. Marseille was just almost unable to exist in the middle of the park. Rongier, Sanson, Camara, who are the 3 starting lineup, were just not able to combine ball to feet. When they didn't have the ball, we know Camara is very physical and he recovers a lot of balls. Sanson and Rongier worked well as well. But with the ball to feet, it was really hard for them to do anything. And the 2 players that Marseille counts on to be the most creative, Payet on the left and Thauvin on the right, same thing, were just really well closed in by Lille and just not able to create anything during that game. Araujo, Selik were very good for Lille. Burak Yilmaz, the Turkish striker, the 35-year-old, running more than the 20-year-old that was in front of him. Was really dangerous for Lille, and he hit the post during the second half when Lille was up 1-0. Yilmaz hit the post, Araujo hit the crossbar on corner, so they had the opportunity to score a second goal. Andre's header found Mandanda. It was really hard for Marseille to keep that score. They had a timid reaction by Rongier, who found the post by a shot from outside the box, but not much more. Payet and Thauvin were substituted out by André Villas-Boas, and Germain came in, and Germain, on one of his first balls, a corner kick at the 85th minute, shot by Sanson. Germain headed that one in the back of the net, luckily for Marseille. Every point counts at the end of the season, and getting 1 point at home against Lille when you play so badly is something that they will feel grateful for. A player for Lille that's a bit disappointed for the money they spent, obviously, Jonathan David. They spent 33 million euros for this player, and he is yet to find his feet, and is yet to find the way to play within the Lille team. Interestingly enough, after the game, in the post-game conference, André Villas-Boas had a quick chat about the MERCATO. The journalists were asking him what he thinks about his team. He said that offensively they're still not good enough, but he also said that they found a forward already that they've supposedly already bought. He's apparently going to be on a plane tomorrow. He called him a pépite, the word that I used earlier, which means he's a young talent, and apparently he would be signing for Marseille in the next couple of days. He'll be at Marseille at the latest on Wednesday, and André Villas-Boas said that wouldn't be the end of the MERCATO. Very interesting to see. Christophe Galtier, the Lille coach, saying after the game that he was a little bit frustrated. They knew that Marseille was dangerous on set pieces. On the 5 goals that Marseille scored this season, 4 of them came from free kicks or corner kicks. So Galtier said that they were aware that they could concede on set pieces, and that's what frustrated even more, that they conceded so late in the game on a set piece. That's the end of the games for this weekend. If we have a quick look at the ladder, Saint-Etienne and Rennes with 10 points by themselves up front. Montpellier and Lens with 9 points behind them. And then Lille, Monaco, Marseille with 7 points is at the 7th spot, and Paris Saint-Germain just behind them with 6 points at the 8th spot. Lyon only in 12th position with 1 win, 2 draws, have 5 points. And at the very bottom, Dijon, who is yet to get any points, and Reims with 1 point on not the best start of the season. Alright, to finish, a quick word of MERCATO. Not a lot happened in this past week since we last discussed the MERCATO. A couple of players were sold overseas. Santa Maria, I was saying, from Angers, sold to Freiburg for 12 million euros, and Bertrand Traoré from Lyon sold to Aston Villa for 18 million euros. That's a few sales by Lyon to England. Bertrand Traoré, Marseille, Tete, all of those players going to play in EPL this season. Lyon, who also recruited a goalkeeper, a goalkeeper who's going to be a substitute. His name is Pollersbeck. He's coming from Hamburg. The couple of transfers that are discussed of and that potentially are about to happen are Edouard Mendy, the goalkeeper from Rennes, going to Chelsea, and potentially Renarson, the goalkeeper from Dijon, going to Arsenal. Lyon is trying to buy Lucas Paqueta from Milan AC. None of those transfers are confirmed, and I will tell you guys when they are. And that's a wrap. Merci. Episode 5 of Farmers Corners FC ends there. I was trying to do it under an hour. I'm just going to be on the hour. Thank you again for listening to the French Football Podcast with the accent. The name is Jeremy Magan. You're welcome to contact me. Any feedback, any question that you have. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and that's where I promote my podcast anyway. Thank you very much for listening again. Merci beaucoup. I will talk to you guys next week. Au revoir.